guys, I'm Richard Oldale and welcome to Mastermind Content. This is the third and final part of the Caretaker Archetype mini-series. So in this video we're going to take a look at the potential causes that enable the caretaker energy to become a dominant feature of your personality. We'll also take a look at a few strategies that you can adopt to immediately help integrate this archetype. So keep watching to the end, because if the caretaker archetype resonates strongly with you, you need to watch this. Hey guys, so like I said, this is the final part of the Caretaker mini-series, and if you want to know what the healthy attributes of this archetype are, then watch part 1, which is this video. And if you've not yet explored the unhealthy qualities of this archetype, then watch this video. Now, if you have seen parts 1 and 2, then you may remember that the caretaker archetype wants to feel useful, valued, appreciated and respected. So you do this by creating a self-image as a warm-hearted, all-loving, all-caring person. And when this energy is well developed, your warm-hearted and loving persona is authentic, and it comes across naturally and without effort. However, if this part of your personality is underdeveloped, you tend to do too much for other people. You take on too many burdens of other people, but by doing so you neglect your own needs. Now this is a way of being that is exhausting, and eventually it leads to fatigue and burnout. It can also be disruptive to your relationships, because this energy tends to develop a martyrdom complex, which builds resentment. And then you start ruminating that you're doing everything for everybody, but nobody is doing anything for you. But on the flip side, you're not asking other people to help you even when you need it. You'll not even ask somebody for their advice to help you talk through and resolve your problems. So if any of these things sound familiar to you, the caretaker archetype is probably one of your most dominant archetypes. So you need to question what your motivations are for helping people. The simple answer is an insecurity complex, but an insecurity complex is not that simple. And what you need to do at this point is determine why you have an insecurity complex. What is the root cause for such a complex? Now once you identify the root cause and bring that to conscious awareness, then you can start the healing process, develop the healthy energies of the caretaker and integrate this aspect of your personality into conscious awareness. So let's take a look at how the caretaker shows up in your life and how you can then develop this archetype to help it improve your life, your relationships and your life experiences. So first of all, you need to consider the motivations of an archetype. And as I've mentioned before, the caretaker wants to feel needed, valued, appreciated and respected. So why does this happen? Well, studies show that people pleasers have a tendency to do things for other people because they want to feel accepted. And attachment theory shows that this happens in children that have an indifferent relationship with their father, the paternal figure or protective figure. Now, sometimes this can be the grandfather or an older sibling, or even a mother in a single parent family. But because the paternal figure is missing from the family system or is not available all the time, often because fathers are away at work, then this authority figure doesn't help the child to feel secure and learn how to survive in the world. So most of the child's experience in these formative years are maternal values. They don't learn structure, protection and life learning skills from the father figure, from the paternal figure. They learn these skills from the maternal figure. But because they see that the mother is always helping people, doing things for the people and sacrificing her own needs, then they adopt this idea, and it becomes a subconscious program. So the child believes that the only way to be accepted within the family system and society as a whole is to be receptive and do things for other people. So then doing things for other people becomes a pattern that you carry into adulthood. Now, the lack of paternal influence, or the male principle, also means you have an insecurity complex, which is built on a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-respect, and possibly a lack of self-love. So compare these with the motivations of the caretaker archetype. You want to feel useful because you lack self-esteem, a feeling that you are not good enough. Now, because this subconscious program of feeling useless also emerges as a lack of self-respect, so then you start looking for respect and validation from others just by doing things to them. You give your energy to other people, you're not respecting your own needs. Now, instead of respecting yourself, you are neglecting yourself. So you're seeking love and acceptance from others because you've not learned to love and accept yourself. The unhealthy caretaker can also develop if your parents were not nurturing. So, for example, the devouring mother or the devouring father that does everything for the child instead of teaching them how to do things for themselves doesn't build a foundation for learning and developing competency in a child that you can then take into adulthood. As a matter of fact, human development researchers at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland found that children learn quicker and are more inclined to learn new things if they are encouraged to figure things out for themselves. When a child is given independence to learn, they develop emotionally secure structure, emotional structure. So if the healthy qualities of the caretaker are a dominant archetype for you, then you probably don't rely on other people to make you feel useful and needed. You don't need that validation. You're just naturally competent enough to recognize that you are useful and you offer value to the world. So you don't feel like you need to do something to be needed. You project your value into the world just by being good company, for example. And the caretaker is great company. Now, on the flip side, if you feel as though you don't have life skills, you don't have sufficient knowledge, or you struggle to cope with your environment and things in the world, then you're more prone to be a people pleaser. And because you lack self-esteem and self-respect, then you're more prone to fall into depression. So we see this idea in the Homeric hymn to Demeter from Greek mythology, where Hades rises from the depths of the underworld, which is symbolic for the unconscious mind, and snatches Persephone while she's picking a narcissus flower. Well, first of all, Persephone is a symbol of a maiden, which is the developing mind, a weak or immature ego. And Homer describes Persephone as the one with the delicate ankles, which suggests that she is unable to stand on her own 2 feet and adapt to the flow of life. We also see that Persephone was picking a narcissus flower, which is associated with narcissism, which is a trait associated with the caretaker energy in the form of vanity and misdirected pride. Also, when Persephone is in the underworld, she is visibly depressed. Thus we see that depression is associated with an underdeveloped ego, because you don't feel useful, whereby then you don't feel needed, you don't feel appreciated, and you don't feel respected. Clinical psychology shows that soft parents that do everything for their child stunt personal and psychological growth, but it will also then stunt emotional growth as well. So these seeds bloom as a subconscious belief that you aren't good at anything and have no value to offer the world. So you basically feel worthless and probably resist trying new things, or even trying to make something of your life. For example, you may have goals and desires of your own, but you don't have the wherewithal to make a start and get anything done. Therefore, your ideas simply remain nothing other than ideas. The Jungian psychologist Clarissa Pinkola Estes noted this in her book Women Who Run with Wolves, and she writes, "The dead litter is comprised of ideas, chores and demands that don't work, have no life and bring no life to her. Such a woman becomes pale yet contentious, more and more uncompromising yet scattered. Her fuse burns shorter and shorter." Popular culture calls this burnout, but it's more than that. It's hambre del alma, the starving soul. She does not realize that by sacrificing her need for return, she teaches her children to make the very same sacrifices of their own needs once they are grown. So we see here that feelings of worthlessness and being useless other than raising your children and looking after the family home can lead to feelings of displeasure, dissatisfaction, restlessness and depression. So how can you develop the healthy qualities to avoid falling into this trap? Well, to develop the caretaker, you need to adopt a sense of selfishness at times and do things that you need to do for yourself, including self-care, because you have to protect your time, energy and resources. But the key thing is that you need to be able to be a little bit selfish, but without feeling guilty about it. Now, this is not easy at first, and I've been in this situation myself, so I understand that it's not, because these feelings come up, you can't just say, oh, stop feeling guilty. So the feelings of guilt won't just disappear immediately. So you need to then find a way to rationalize why you need to look after your well-being first. So one idea you can use is that your health is a priority, because without your health, then you're not any use to anybody. You're not in a position to help anybody. And that's the worst thing that can happen for the caretaker. So the first thing to rationalize to overcome the guilt is that I need to take this time for myself, because I need to look after my physical, emotional and mental health. Now, the masculine energies of the caretaker, which I associate with Apollo, I covered that in the previous video, bring logic and reasoning, and they also bring you focus, which enable you to strive towards your goals and not allow yourself to be distracted by taking on other people's burdens. So how can you develop this side of the unhealthy caretaker and integrate the healthy attributes? Here's a couple of tips. So one of the developmental goals of the caretaker is to take care of your own well-being without feeling guilt. Okay? You also have to be comfortable asking other people for help when you need it. Again, without feeling guilt or that you are being a burden to somebody else. Other people are often willing to help because it gives them a sense of well-being as well. Naturally, it's their caretaker archetype and we all have the same energies. So a good way of developing the caretaker is to allow yourself to take time out for yourself. Schedule all the things you have to do in a day and across the course of a week. Now include in that schedule self-care, your me time, which should include things like chilling, sleeping and a long bath at the very least. Now if you don't have any free spaces in your schedule, once you've listed all your priorities and responsibilities and me time, then you have no reason to accept anybody else's responsibilities, whereby you don't have to feel guilty about having to disappoint somebody, because you can't feel guilty if you don't have the time, the energy or the resources. It's not your responsibility. Of course, you can be a bit more flexible with this system once you've integrated more of the healthy attributes of this archetype. But in the beginning, set yourself values and boundaries and stick to them. So of course there will come a time when somebody asks you to do something for them, but your rule now is that you can and will only do something for other people if you have the time, energy and resources. And if you genuinely don't, then why should you feel guilty about disappointing somebody? So remember, the guilt is part of a subconscious program because you don't feel useful, valued, appreciated and respected. But look how many other things you do in your life where you are useful, where you are needed and where you are valued. You've probably got an entire schedule validating all those things. And you can be assured that the people that do rely on you appreciate and respect you for what you do for them. So the next time somebody asks you for help, check your schedule and ask yourself the following questions. Is it my responsibility to help this person? Do I have the time, resources and energy to help this person? Now if the answer is yes, then fair play, it's a win-win situation. You get to feel useful and needed and they get the help that they need. But if you don't have the time, you win, they lose. Okay, but don't worry, because they will figure something out and they won't feel any antagonism towards you. It's just a fact of life. And also if they do feel antagonism towards you, it's actually their problem, not yours, and that's something that they need to address themselves, and that's probably something that we'll talk about in another video for another archetype. Okay guys, I'm going to wrap it up there, but I trust this 3-part series on the Caretaker has been useful to you. I've also published an article on my website which gives you more great tips of how you can integrate this archetype into your personality. So head over to Mastermind Content website at mastermindcontent.co.uk/develop the Caretaker. I've left a link in the description below so you can access it immediately from there. Now it is free on the website, but you will need to register for an account, but it only takes a matter of seconds. So thanks again for watching to the end, and I'll see you again with more content on the Archetypes Explained series. Next up in the series actually is the Sage Archetype. So if you are a perfectionist, an idealist or overly critical, you want to be checking out the next set of videos. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.